Thank you. That's what they do in second grade, by the way, to get the kids to calm down. So I don't know if that says anything about what we are as ham radio operators, but there you go. You notice there's no sound, but I'm holding a microphone. The reason I'm holding a microphone is because this is being streamed and videoed, and they need sound, and otherwise it would be pretty horrible sound. It's bad enough with me talking anyway. Okay, welcome everybody to the regular Monday night, Monday Night Net. No, let's try that again. Welcome to our meeting on the 27th of July 2018, and we're going to start off with a forum. This is something that's going to be modified over time, but we're starting tonight with a new idea brought to you by Mike and Leon. They're going to talk to you about what's next. Now, if you are not a brand new ham, that doesn't mean you can't learn something tonight. If you are a brand new ham, I hope you will learn something tonight. So I'm going to turn it up. Which one of you two is starting first? Mike. AHZ, WA8AHZ.
Thanks, Bill. And we've got a jam-packed evening ahead of us. So I'm going to move through a kind of a, oh, I have to move. I don't want to move.
That's good.
All right, but then I'm,
As long as Gossip Karen is between you and me.
all right,
Otherwise,
all right, I'll
we're not gonna
stay.
see your lovely face. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I will probably drift around, so I'm not too concerned. We've got some slides up here, and we're going to talk a little bit about a series that we're entitling, oh my gosh, I got my radio license, what do I do now? As Bill suggested, this is not just for the new ham, but we think it is. It is also about contributing your knowledge of what you would part as an Elmer to a new ham. What we're going to do in this session right here is we're going to talk a little bit about what do you do about that first radio, probably an HT. Maybe it's more than likely it's a 2-meter rig. What do you do about it? What are some of the decisions you should be concerned about? So I kind of need to raise a hand. For the new hams in the crowd, how many of you now currently own a 2-meter radio?
Do I count as new?
Yeah, you definitely count as new.
What
Okay.
about me?
Okay, I'm not sure I'd count John in that category, but okay. I didn't define what new is, but a few. How many of you are looking to see if you should buy a radio? Okay, a few. How many of you are older hams and have more than 3 handhelds? Okay.
I have more than 3 handhelds.
Yeah, okay. See, we have this thing in ham radio about collecting radios. And we want to park a little bit of our thoughts and share those. And that's what this is all about. Yes, I have some view graphs. Yes, I'll post the view graphs as part of the presentation stuff out on the website when we're done here. You will have failed miserably if you force me to go through these slides. Okay? I think there's 2 reasons or 2 ways of thinking about your first new radio. Remember, this is a conversation, new guys and old guys, parting discussions. New guys, you got to work your way into this conversation of yes, but I don't believe this. There's 2 things that I believe, or 2 criteria that I believe that radio operators should consider when they consider their first HT radio. The first is, what are you going to do with it? Okay? And the second one is, how much do you want to pay? Okay, and that's what we're going to focus on in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So references, okay, the educator and me, and I spent about 10 years of my life as a school teacher at the university level. You got to have references, so go to EHAM, go to ARRL QSTs, and frankly, there is a great book out there that ARRL put out that's called Radios to Go, because we're really talking about the first HT radio, or handheld radio, or handy-talkie radio, as they're called in the trade. We'll have another session where we'll talk about what do you do about your first HF radio, and what do you do there. So that's our references. There you go. Well, we're going to want to, what do you want to do with this radio? Okay, I'm going to go to a more seasoned radio operator. Would you buy a $400 radio to use at the Marine Corps Marathon in October? Yep. Shaking your head no? No. Jeff, why not? Exactly. So would it be fair to say that those of us that collect handhelds, we might have a cheapo radio or an older radio? A radio will take out in the elements. If it gets broken, well, it's another radio in the trash heap of radios. And then we might have a more expensive radio. What do you so price might be, first of all, a driver, but I want to stay on what do you want to do with the radio? Are you into emergency communications? Then you probably want an HT. If you're going to put it in your car, you probably want something that's called a mobile radio. HT is going to run around 5 watts of output power, maybe 8 watts. But with a mobile radio, one that you can put in your car, connect up to the car battery and the like, you could probably put out 50 watts. Or do you want to get to a base station? Now, we've been talking about, this session was about handy-talkies or walkie-talkies or the small radios. But frankly, you got to ask that fundamental first question, what are you going to do with it? Are you into public service? Marine Corps Marathon is a public service event. It's also an emergency communications event for us. Our part of it is emergency communications. Are you going to use it to go on the road to drive to California and see how many repeater sites you can hit? Okay. What are the other choices I have here? There's no way you can dim the front lights without dimming all the lights. Is that how this room works? It's all or nothing? That's what it looks like from the switching. Okay. You're going to put it on the road. You'll get longer ranges with 50 watts than you will with 5 watts. In fact, with a better antenna, say an antenna that is on the roof of the car, you can do better than a handheld walkie-talkie with a whip antenna on it. So do you want to be in the car? And then, as I said, there really is a third option. The third option is a base station. Now, how many of you use your HT as your base station in your shack? I do. So I put 5 watts out to an antenna. My antenna sits up on the roof, okay, as opposed to using the one on the radio. And from Fairfax, I can get the Vienna repeater fairly well. A little bit of noise. It's not sometimes what we call full quieting, but people can hear me. So 5 watts can go the distance of 8 to 10, 12 miles easily. In fact, from my house and my antenna and my HT, I can get out to what's called the Bluemont repeater, which is in Shenandoah Valley, every day of the week.
I think anybody can get to that one, given how high that is.
Very much not in a valley.
Yeah, and that's so true. Now, I'm not sure if Vienna's in the valley or if other places are in the valley, but Vienna's sometimes hard to hit. The repeater at the new repeater or the old repeater at the new building in Fairfax Government Center, the so-called 7-9 machine, it's a little bit hard to hit, I think.
Not tried that one, so.
Okay? So what are you going to use the radio for? You've got to decide. John, what do you use a 2-meter, 6-meter radio for?
It's like super relevant when I got my license back in 2015. I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I wanted to get on the air. I had a license. I got my tech and my general. I spent 6 months trying to decide what to do for radio. Studied all kinds of stuff. And finally, I got to get on the air. Broke down, bought an HT, tried a couple repeaters, and loved it. For me, the big thing was just getting over the hump of buying a radio and getting on the air. And once I did that, absolutely hooked. I had no idea what most of these things were. I just wanted to get on the air, and it was just that, what do I buy? And that was the hardest thing for me. And I finally just broke out of frustration studying all of it, bought a nice quality HT, and within 6 months won a mountaintop contest.
And so the other route is how many people have bought a $30 Bofang? Okay. Okay, so you've made some rational decisions of basically getting to the point of a radio. You've decided that you probably want an HT, right? We can get off this slide finally, and we get on to the next slide of, well, what's out there and who are they? Well, what's your budget? A Bofang radio or a Watson will run about $30. There's a little bit of a quality control issue with those radios. 2 radios are not made the same. So that's a little bit of a concern. But on the other hand, for $30, if it gets dropped at a Marine Corps marathon, it's essentially a device that could be thrown away. Now I'll skip to the bottom. What I won't do in a HT world is I won't buy somebody's used HT. I have no idea what they've done with that radio. So whereas I will run out and buy, with a little bit of investigation, somebody's HF base station for 40% off list price, I won't do that with an HT. Why? Because it's just too easy to abuse an HT. So that's the bottom line at the bottom. You can go anywhere from $30 to $40 up to the $300-400 range. You've really got to begin to ask the question. The technology is changing. I grew up in the world of analog. What's happening to radios is they're turning digital. And this is just as true with the handheld radios as it is with the base stations. And the repeaters have to follow suit. They've got to be able to receive digital signals, ones and zeros, versus a waveform, an FM waveform. Well, it would still be an FM waveform, but how they process and decode will be different. So you've got to decide. But out there in the marketplace right now for HTs, the newest thing on there is buying a dual capable radio, analog and digital. Well, that'll set you up for the future. But then again, what are you thinking you're going to do with your HT? Are you going to keep it forever? Or are you going to stair step and buy something further later once you've got on the air? How many people are on the air with a 2-meter receiver, brand new people? How many people are on the air? Are you finding that the 2-meter repeaters are kind of limited in the number of contacts, new contacts you can make? You pretty much run out of people to talk to. You can talk to the same old people, but you run out of people. And this is a repeater-rich area. Okay, you can wait for the sporadic E-skip and maybe get some, quote, DX on 2 meters with your 5 watts, and you could do that. Although handhelds are not notoriously easy for doing scanning for signals across the whole band. So, price-wise, $50, $60 or $30 to $40 for a Bofang, going up to the next group of prices are in about the 150 to 170 range, and then they go to the 300-400 range. Well, I mentioned there's this revolution going on with something called digital, and what's probably the big rave right now is a handheld radio. Kind of looks like this, but essentially it talks to, RF-wise, from this radio transmitter antenna, it talks to a hotspot. And the hotspot is Wi-Fi connected to the internet. And with a little bit of programming on this radio, you can program to essentially jump off the RF signal, you are transmitting radio frequency waves, to a hotspot. The hotspot connects to the Wi-Fi connects to the internet, and you can pretty much connect to any ham radio operator around the world with your handheld. Digital mobile radio is it called. You can buy some Chinese radios with Chinese hotspots for $100-ish or so. Or you're probably going to want to, if you're really serious, into digital mobile radio, the ability to use the internet through RF connection, you'll probably want to spend a little bit more than the minimum set. I would not run out. My recommendation to you is not run out and go buy a digital mobile radio as your first HT. First of all, it won't work on any of the repeaters. So now I'm going to jump over to the older guys for a moment. If digital mobile radio is the new wave, if it's all about connecting to the internet, is there any way you can use your analog radios and connect to the internet? Sure. Tell me about that. Okay, what's this D-Star thing all about?
Well, D-Star is another waveform, a digital form basically that has a whole array, if you will, or whole community of repeaters that link around the world. So it's similar in some ways to DMR in the terms of the talk groups and things like that it can do.
Oops. So I lost your little thingy down there. So the digital mobile radio goes RF signal to a hotspot within feet of the radio, to that Wi-Fi connection to the internet channeling going anywhere you want to go to, and there's a channeling process that says I want to talk to I want to talk to South America, I want to talk to North America, I want to talk to Europe. There's a quote set of controls you set on the radio to get to where you want to talk to, and you can call CQ or whatever and do that. What Howard just said is that all the radio manufacturers, the Yaesu folks have something called D-Star. The ICOM folks have that's right. ICOM folks have D-Star, and Yaesu has Fusion. Well, okay.
There's a Kenwood D-Star radio too.
All right.
They're not the only one.
So they're not the only, but the only one that's a little bit more across the board is something called T-Star, whereas the Yaesu guys have Fusion, and only Fusion works with Yaesu. Okay, so the advantage of that is you don't need the hotspot. You use your regular well, it has a special feature.
Works the same way. The hospital's only because we don't have many DMR repeaters in this area.
Okay, so Rachel's saying if there was a DMR repeater, if you could hit the DMR repeater, you can do it. I don't know if there is one, and I don't believe there is.
We're actually pretty saturated with DMR repeaters in the area. You just gotta know where they are.
Okay, so you don't need a hotspot. Okay.
Depends what you want to do.
Ah, that's what I was waiting for. Depends on what you want to do. Are you back to this same salient issue? Are you interested in the local repeaters and having a rag chew? Are you interested in emergency services? Are you interested in being local, or do you want to go international? But you can do that on 2 meters. And that's really what I wanted to do in this session today was I'm not going to tell you go buy a Yaesu or go buy a Kenwood or go buy a ICOM or go buy a Bofang. I guarantee you that if you have one of those radios, you buy one of those radios, somebody in this club has it, knows how to help you get it programmed. Sometime soon we will have a programming session like we did in January where you bring your HT in. This time we'll do it a little bit more organized, and I'll have more folks that will help set up your radios and program them to the various locations. And in fact, Brendan, I think this time we should have one station set up for setting up DMR for folks. Although DMR requires a pre-registration of certain data, and we'll get into that when we get to it. So that's all I really wanted to do today, is open the eye that say, don't spend 6 months, John, trying to figure out what radio to buy. At some point, just go buy one. If you don't know any better, buy a cheaper one. If you have a pretty good idea what you're going to do with it and you want to invest a little bit more, go ahead and buy a little bit more, probably $150-ish. If you really want to buy towards the top of the line, you're $350 to $400 for a radio. A good radio will last a long time. This radio here is mine. I've had it since 1994. Now the battery needs to be replaced. Okay, I said to you that this was the first of a session. We're going to have more of these sessions as we go through this year and next. We're going to pick topics that make sense to folks. We would like to have your inputs on topics you'd like to have. For the new hams in the room, spread the word to the other new hams that this is a session that's kind of set for them, for you, comma. For the old heads in the room, we need your talent to help spread the words of your views on the topics we'll be talking about. We're going to be talking about antennas. We'll be talking about my favorite topic, which is grounding and bonding, and others. Questions, and then I'm done. Yes, sir. Okay, so are we going to talk about move mounts or earth to move the earth? We can certainly put that on the list. What we'll be doing is we'll be asking for inputs.
Just
one thing that popped into my mind when I saw the original topic of now I've got a license, now what handy-talkie do I get? It worked out the other way around for me. I won the handy-talkie as a door prize at Manassas Hamfest when I was going there buying components, tools, and so on. And then said, okay, now I've got to study and get a license.
Yep. Very good. I tried that on my kids. That didn't work for them, though. They liked the radio, but they couldn't use it. Okay, I think with that, I need to wrap up, and we need to turn over to the next part of the meeting. Thank you. If this was useful, please give us some feedback to either myself or Leon that this was something that you'd be willing to participate. A series of forum of what's next. What's next? Do I get a radio? Do I get an antenna? Should I study for my next license test? It hadn't occurred to me to talk about moon bounce. What about digital, et cetera, et cetera? All those will be put on the list if you give us the signals that you want them.
Put up a 200-foot tower with a beam on it. Is that next? Thanks, Mike.